Good morning and welcome to my YouTube channel. I thought this morning we'd go for a wander around Carsebreck and the Rhynd lochs. I was hoping we might have got a bit of a sunrise this morning. There is heavy overcast. There's some clearance above the hills, above the Sheriff Muir Hills. So hopefully we can get a hint of some kind of sunrise this morning. If not, we'll make the most of what we've got. I've chosen this area to wander around this morning because it's only a couple of miles from my house, and because of the lockdown restrictions it's really early in the morning, there's no one around. If I turn round you might be able to see the start or the glint of a sunset behind me. But the first loch that we approached, there's 3 lochs within about a mile radius here. The 2 upper lochs are Loch Rhynd and the lower loch is Loch Carsebreck. So there's a lot of history around Loch Carsebreck, which I'll touch on later on when we reach it. So I've just seen this shot and I'm going to use the rock in the loch as foreground so that I can get a composition. I can get the trees in, the water's nice and still. I've put in a polarizer on my camera as well. So I've taken a tighter composition. I've now zoomed in on the rock, and the rock is now going to be my foreground. So I've focused on the rock. I've taken a second shot of the trees and I've focused on the trees, and then what I'll do in post-processing, I'll bring the 2 images together, and then that way we've got all the detail throughout the composition. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and frame the shot, and I'm going to use the grass surrounding the camera lens and use that to draw us in to the composition with the rock and the trees. So in order to do that I might have to lower the camera a little bit, and as you can see my tripod's got a long stabiliser beam in the centre, so it depends on how low it can actually go. So for this composition, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the grass to frame my shot, and I'm going to take 3 images. The first image I'll focus in on the grasses, the second image I'll focus in on the rock, and then the third image I'll focus in on the trees, and then I can bring those 3 images together in post-processing and I'll have a full front to back sharp image. So the other good thing about going for a wander, as I was stepping over the stile there to get into the other field, I spotted a lone tree over in the marsh. So what we're going to do is we're going to wander over and see if we can get a composition of the lone tree in the marsh. Now I'm going to be really careful because we've had a lot of rain over the last couple of nights and the snow's melted, so it could be quite boggy. So I'll give it a go and we'll see how it turns out. Okay, I've made it to the tree. As you'll see, I fell in the bog and it's burst open my trousers, so I need to fix it before I start moving on. And this is dangerous stuff. It's like quicksand. So what I'll do is I'll take a quick shot of this lone tree with the snowy hills in the background and the sun's coming up just above the clouds. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a bracket exposure and then I'll blend the sky in the foreground later on when I'll do my post-processing. Okay, so now to try and get back to the stile. Hopefully we can survive. So we're approaching Loch Carsebreck, but what I can see over in the hills, there's really dark clouds coming our way. Now the forecast is for heavy rain, but when I checked the forecast before I came out, the forecast had predicted rain about 12 o'clock. So it's about 8:30 in the morning just now, and when I look over, the clouds are getting darker and darker and closer and closer. But I'm only 5 minutes away from the loch, and we'll be able to show you around Loch Carsebreck and explain all its good history. So that's us arrived at Carsebreck Loch, and as you can see, it's getting duller and duller. So what I'm going to try and do is take a couple of shots of the loch with the clouds and the snow in the background, and I've set my camera up for f11, ISO 50 and 1/4 second. So I don't know if you're able to see the farmhouse from there, but what I'm doing is I'm just setting up my shot. I've got a really dark background in the sky, I've got quite a light foreground, I've got a leading line from the hedges right into the front door, and we've got the two sets of trees at the side of the house framing the house. So what I'm going to do is set f11, 1/3 second, ISO 50. Drop that down to 1/4 second. This morning we're just wandering around Loch Carsebreck. We've passed Upper Loch Rhynd and we've now reached Loch Carsebreck. Unfortunately the weather's not looking very kind and we're being surrounded by showers, which won't be long before it hits us. I can already feel the spits of rain on me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wander down next to the edge of the loch and then I'll show you around the loch. So I've come down to the edge of the loch, and as you can see there's lots of reeds and the water level is really high. but I've spotted some swans. So what I've also done is I've put a long lens on because I don't want to disturb the birds at all. But whilst I've been doing some footage of the birds, I've seen a nice composition with the tree. So you've got the tree in the foreground, a really nice reflection in the water, and then you've got a horizon tree line as well. So I'm hoping this all works out. So I found a new composition. I'm trying to get a photograph of the reeds, but I'm also being conscious that I'm kind of getting too close to the water, and I can actually start to feel myself sink. So I'll get this shot framed, and what I'm trying to do is get the trees in the composition, get the curvature of the reeds. I'm at 13th of a second, f11 and ISO 100. And I'll just drop the exposure a bit. And I might bracket it. So what I might do now is, there's a lot of reeds, I'm just being careful where I walk, there's a lot of reeds around me, so I was going to see if I could get a close-up shot with a zoom lens, and as you can see we've got reeds everywhere this morning. So I've seen there's 3 reeds together, so it might make a nice composition. So what I'm going to do is try this out, and again put it on the 3rd and just manual focus. So the sun's just peeked out for the back of the clouds. So what I'm trying to do, there's a nice reflection on the water. So what I'm going to do is build a composition around the reeds with the reflection in the background, try and silhouette them, and then see how this goes. And there we go. So what I think we'll do is we'll just wander back, but we'll wander up round the loch, because there's some really nice trees and there's some really nice colours. There's oranges, there's magentas coming through and yellows, so it's looking really pretty. So as I was walking up the side of the loch, there's some amazing trees, so I've just stopped to see if I can get a couple of compositions, because even though at this late stage in the winter there's some really nice colours. Thanks for watching my video. If you liked it, please hit like and please hit subscribe. Remember, if you're new to YouTube, subscribe doesn't cost you anything, it's all free. So thank you, and here's to the next time.